So we'll give it 1 or 2 more minutes and then what I think I'll do is we'll call this to order, establish that we have a quorum, and then we have just a whole boatload of new members. And we'd like to sort of go around the table and reintroduce ourselves as old members and new members sort of introduce ourselves. There will be no requirement to sing your college song or anything like that. But that's coming. And we'll get going. So. This is quieter than I've experienced anything in years. So let's get going. So this is the let's see, but minute, everybody. John, yeah. Somebody should remind me to check to admit people as we go along, because apparently. So this is the duly noticed meeting of the Advisory Committee of Non-Voting Taxpayers in Nantucket. It's Saturday, July 18th, 2026, 10 a.m. in the morning. I'm the current chair, Peter Halley, and I just want to call the roll here to see that we have a quorum. And so Peter Halley is here. I think Sean is here. Kathy Bird may be joining us later by video. William Gardner's here. Steve Perlman's here. Pam Swan. What's up, Pam? Lou Bassano's here. Jean Briskman. I saw Jean. Yeah. Donna's here. Donna Martino. John Delano is on the video.
Delano.
Here, Eric Crapper's here, Scott Ulm is not here yet. Okay, Robert Padani's here, and we have an alternate, Dr. Johansson is not here. Okay, well, we have a quorum, clearly. Thank you very much. And I'm going to ask that we approve the agenda for this meeting, which has been published. I have a motion for approval. Second. And
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have this agenda, approval of draft minutes. Any have a motion to approve the draft minutes of the last meeting?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and what I'm going to do is welcome the new committee members, and we'll go around and introduce ourselves, old and new. So the new people can figure out who the old people are. It's easy in my case because I have gray hair. And then we'll go to our guest speaker, Libby Gibson. And in as much as we're in the sort of concession game today of the World Cup and the World Championship tomorrow, it struck me that if there were a soccer jersey for Nantucket, in the sort of Brazilian tradition of one name on the jersey, Libby's would just be Libby. Everybody knows, and we're lucky to have her to you today. So I'm Peter Halley. I've been a non-resident taxpayer for approximately 15 years, and I think I've been on this. I think this is my 3rd or 4th term on this committee. I was fortunate to have another public spirited person suggest that maybe this is something I might want to do, and it turned out he was correct, because I find it a worthwhile endeavor to. In my view, it's sort of helping non-voting taxpayers have a voice, or at least have a voice heard in what's going on. There are other ways they can do it, but this is a good way, because I think what we try to do is be trusted advisors to the town on issues. And so, during the end of my term, which is, I think, next year, and anybody who we still have a vacancy, anybody who's looking to join should submit an application to the town and haven't considered. So we'll just go around the table. Donna?
I'm Donna Martino. I've been coming to Nantucket since the early 70s, and I was fortunate enough to purchase something in 2001. I'm pleased to be a member of the non-voting taxpayer committee. I feel we offer value to those of us who would like to have a say in the town and government in certain issues.
Great. I'm Eric Kreitler. I'm a new member of the committee. We've had a house in Sconset for about 25 years, and I welcome this opportunity. Before retiring 2 years ago, I was a law partner of Peter and Bill was kind enough to suggest that I do this, and I'm very excited about joining.
Not the lawyer.
You know, I knew I would trigger that kind of response, and I said it anyway.
My proper name is Charles Louis Pisano. I go by the name of Louis, the middle name. Been a member of this committee from the time it started. In fact, I was one of the people that started this committee with Donald Van Greenby. Been coming to Nantucket for probably 50 years. My wife's family came here for the first time in 1945. So we're not new to Nantucket. Saw a lot of changes over the years, some good, some not so good. But it's still a beautiful island. Want to keep it that way. And those of us that would like to be involved as to what's happening and have the voice of the non-voting taxpayer heard are members of this committee, and some of the new people that are here, we would welcome your voice and your opinions.
Patty Doyster, this is my second term. I found this committee to be extraordinary in terms of the information about all it takes to run this little town, and it's been eye-opening, and hopefully we get more people engaged. I've been around since the 90s.
I'm Steve Perlman. Some of you may know my brother. I hope not professionally.
Doesn't
Know who he is, Sheriff. I've been coming to Nantucket for 80 years, since the year I was born. My grandparents had come for a week or so, and then they bought a house in 1962, and my wife and I moved here, and after we retired in 2008. I've been on this committee for 4 years, and since I know the island well, I'm a part-time concierge as well, but since I know the island well, I want to make sure that I do my part to make sure it heads in the right direction.
I'm Bob Madoni, new member, happy to be here. Been a non-voting taxpayer since 1999, so that's going on 27 years. Since I've recently retired, it's nice to have some time to be involved without all the other stress and craziness of work. And I've been involved on the sidelines and always, watching meetings, and my wife and I are pretty aware of what's been happening, and it's an opportunity to be involved directly. So I'm grateful for that opportunity.
Hi, I'm Kelly Griffin. I'm not actually on the committee, but I'm here to listen today, and perhaps maybe I will be on the committee.
Doug Meyercourt, I'm not on the committee. Been here 37 years.
Welcome.
I'm Bill Gardner, another 50+ year veteran of the island. The summer residence in Quidnet, where it's still nice and quiet. I echo what everyone else said about the value of this committee. Thank you.
I'm Gene Briskman. We've been coming to Nantucket since the mid-60s and have been non-voting taxpayers for 40 years, and this is my 4th year.
Libby Gibson, Town Manager.
I am Peter Kahn, an old member both in age and in service. I don't know how many terms, but it's been a long time, but I've seen a lot of interesting issues that have come across and had the privilege to participate in many of them. And so it's a good group, and we have I think the value, as Peter said, is that we advise, and I think we become trusted advisors. I hope that they will tell us how trusted we are, but that's our role, to be advisors.
I'm Marie Franco. I'm not on the committee, but we've owned our house since 2004. And I stopped working recently and have been able to spend more time here. And, you know, very interested in everything that the committee has been doing. And I'm here really to observe this morning.
I'm Marie's husband, Tim, and first came here in 1977. Promptly got into a fist fight at Preston's. But since then, I've been clean and I haven't been causing any trouble.
That's why we're holding the meeting at the police station today.
Guys like me, right?
Well, good, thank you. I welcome the new members. I'm sorry. Yeah, we actually have some more non-members, prominent non-members.
Bob Williams, just here to observe, been here for 28 years. Take a lot of living, so I want to come see her.
And
I'm Jill B. I'm on the select board. I've been to many of your meetings. I really appreciate all the input that you all get. It's important to me, and I love reading your letters. And Peter in particular have been very important to me and talking to me over the years, and I've very much valued their input. And I wanted to come see our town manager, who I also admire very much.
it's a real cooperative effort to enjoy the fruits of this island and see that it continues to.
I'm Bob Goltzer. I'm a 24-year homeowner and just interested in listening and hearing. I've watched some of the meetings on Zoom in the past and appreciate the work that the committee does.
Well, welcome. Well, so anybody who appreciates the work can stay. So what I thought is we'll get right to Libby. We've been
Online.
John, I'm sorry.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
We can hear you. Just speak up. I think our speaker is okay here. But go.
Okay. I'll lean in, as they say. My name is John Delano. I'm a new member of the committee, although I've been watching the committee for a number of years. I have been coming to Nantucket since I was a teenager in the late 60s, early 70s. And after I got out of law school, I actually bought a house in 1979. So I've bet that was back in the days when you could afford to do that. But I've been coming back and forth to the island since 1979 every year, multiple times. And we're not on island right now. We'll be on August 1st, I hope. That's the game plan. My background professionally, although I do have a law degree and practice law initially, I have to say that I'm a non-reconstructed lawyer, I guess. I have been 14 years on Capitol Hill as chief of staff to a Pennsylvania congressman. And then I've just retired from 30 years with CBS News Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, broadcasting, television broadcasting. And I'm absolutely delighted. I've followed a number of the members of the committee. I recognize a number of them from your years of service, and I thank you for all that you've been doing. I'm very honored to be part of what I hope is going to be a really dynamic group moving forward. So thank you again. Appreciate it, Peter.
Thanks. Thank you. So
I
think we have some more visitors. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I am not yet officially a member of the committee, but hope to be when I arrive on August 1st and raise my hand to Deb and Libby. I should begin with an apology because I have my Lamine Yamal shirt on for tomorrow's finals, and I don't have I don't have Libby's shirt on. So maybe over the year we can correct that. We've been coming. I washed ashore in '56, and we've been bringing our family to Quidnet for 50 years. We now have Part of our family living on Nantucket and kids in middle and high school stage, and have become more drawn into all the important issues that we have to work on over the coming years. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Mike. Is there anybody else before I try to?
Hey, hello. Can you
Hi,
see me?
Renee, how are you?
Hi all. I'm gonna put my hand down. Hold on. Hi, I'm Renee Johannenson. I've been coming to the island for many years, and I bought a home in Sconset in 2020, the month before the pandemic started. Anyway, I'm an alternate member of this advisory council, but my spot will be opening up pretty much soon as I started it, because I've decided to sell my home, and it currently has sold in Sconset. Part of this is because my children have grown up and moved to the West Coast. Really hard to get to Nantucket from the West Coast, the places they're living. And I have to be really honest. I have found some of being a non-voting tax-paying member of this island to be very frustrating, actually. And so that did lead to some of my decisions to leave the island. So I thought I would leave with that. Not too glowing impression, but still love the place, and hoping some of these things could be figured out, as I plan on coming to continue to visit often as I can.
Great. So Renee, before you leave the island and leave us, at some point, probably not today, it would be interesting to have, your kind of top 5 or 10 list of the things that have, other than your children moving away, that have led you to say, well, it's just not worth it anymore. And because I think it would be of interest to us, and I'm guessing it probably coincides with a lot of things that we think about, and maybe should give voice to if the voice hasn't been there in the past. So that would be
Happy
great.
to do that. I'll be on island tomorrow. I couldn't make it there today for today's meeting, but I'll be there tomorrow.
Great, thanks a lot.
Sure.
So now, every year, at least I think every year that I've been around, Libby has given sort of a state of the island address. I know she practiced it on Monday, just so it would be perfect today. So Libby, thank you for being here, and we're interested in what you have to say. And I think there could be some questions when you're finished.
Sure.
Good.
Thank you, first of all, for having me. I always appreciate coming here and being able to tell you all what's going on in town government. And I appreciate our board member, Jill Beef, being here as well. So,
could you spotlight the speaker, please?
Excuse me, but
could you spotlight the speaker so we get a big picture of
I think that
you need to
try to move the owl
on the so let me,
I
for some
think,
reason it's stuck on Donna. You're beyond my technical abilities here. We may have to go with the voice, but I'll try to fiddle around while Libby's talking.
Can you just
and you do it, Jill. Yeah.
Thank you.
We're gonna try to move the owl a little bit. It typically moves.
The eyes are on this side.
Right.
Go ahead.
Because it's looking at her? Is
Yeah.
that where you're? I'm moving more to her. Wait, Libby, you're talking. Yeah,
Yeah, is it,
yeah, I think it's just sort of a tweet.
I can't really even see that.
Yeah, I see you anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You saved her.
Everybody can see that.
You're on.
Don't have to turn the lights out.
Yeah, let me turn my.
Maybe you can turn the lights lower.
Yeah, it is a little like,
It's
there's a lot of.
we're too bright. There you go.
Now, if you go to the participants function and go to whoever is running the meeting and click on the spotlight function, it will make your picture the biggest picture on the screen instead of being a small picture like all of us who won't be talking much.
Let me see.
Go ahead while you're doing that.
Yeah.
Peter.
I don't know that I will ever get there, but we'll give it a try.
While we're trying to figure that out, as Peter said, I did practice this out on Monday at the Nantucket Civic League Annual Summer Forum. So if you were there, and I know some of you were there, you're gonna hear some of the same stuff, but I am gonna give a little more here than I did there because we had a kind of a time limitation. So I like to start out with a 2026 annual town meeting overview. We had 84 articles at our town meeting, and just to give you a little context, in 2025, we had 104 articles, and in 2024, we had 112 articles. The articles are grouped by category. We had 26 zoning articles at the 2026 annual town meeting, 37 in 2025, 22 in 2024. We had 6 general bylaw amendments, 4 real estate articles, and 4 home rule petitions, 2 of which were resubmittals. We had 9 citizen warrant articles. Last year, we had 26. The year before, we had 27. We usually have in the range of the 20s of citizen warrant articles, but this year they were a lower number. We really worked on increasing our public outreach prior to town meeting. We had more videos, more project explanations, how town meeting works. We put QR codes in our voters guide. The voters guide this is a kind of a draft, looks something like this. It's a multi-page document, which is also available online. And again, like the QR codes were for a variety of projects. So if you were at town meeting or even beforehand, you could go look at the project pages. We had town presentations at town meeting of the town sponsored warrant articles. And we had a number of practice sessions to prepare for that. We had a number of social media posts. We had a May the 4th be with you campaign because town meeting started on May 4th. That was kind of fun. And we had 7 warrant articles that were contingent upon ballot questions. The annual town election was on May 19th. And those questions included some big projects, which you probably all know about. Proposed new Our Island home facility passed, school athletic facility improvements, almost all of these passed. Town employee housing, Loran Barracks seasonal employee housing phase 4 that passed the election, but not town meeting. The Somerset needs area sewer extension, Tom Nevers debris removal and erosion control, and we had a capital outlay question for vehicles and equipment. We had an online, and this is not the first year we've had this has been kind of routine, tax rate impact calculator. And you can put in your property tax and property valuation information and get what your tax rate impact would be on the various projects. Okay, our general fund operating budget for this current fiscal year totaled $148 million, almost close to $150 million. That was up 5.89% over fiscal 26. And articles that generated the most discussion at the FinCom or select board level prior to town meeting included, of course, Our Island home, school athletic facilities, noise bylaw amendments, and an article to authorize the town to license town property for erosion control. That was Article 73. It relates to the Wisconsin Bluff Erosion Control Project. And we are still in the process of following up on some of these bylaw amendments. All go to the Attorney General for approval. We get our home rule petitions up to our legislators for filing, designating project managers and undertaking the beginnings of procurement for the various big capital projects. And sometimes we have a work group or 2 that we need to help facilitate whatever happened at town meeting. We have a lot of current town projects, programs, initiatives, activities, responses. And I'm just going to give you an overview. This is not every single thing. It might sound like every single thing, but there's actually more than what I'm going to say. The select board strategic plan. This plan is updated annually in October. We have an annual retreat with the board. And throughout the year, we are implementing the various goals and we have an implementation plan. So we're now working on preparing our update to the board for the October retreat as to what we've been doing with their strategic plan. We're in the process of planning for a new DPW facility that will be located out at 1 Shadbush Road out by the airport. And We haven't quite started this yet, but one of our next activities with DPW is evaluating the reuse of the current DPW site. And there's a number of ideas about that. We're prioritizing all of the projects that were approved at the 2026 annual town meeting. We have a lot going on with personnel. A couple of highlights include our new health director, who starts later in August, our new finance director, who starts at the beginning of September. We're very excited about those two people coming in. Some of you have met Deb Gudemond. She's our new committee coordinator. And that is a position that we established several years ago, but it quickly got overtaken by public records administration. And we had to dedicate the person that we had intended to put in the committee coordinator position to process public records. We have 2 full-time employees right now processing public records requests. So Deb has started to visit with all of our committees, and she's got a program for this and making sure that they are complying with the open meeting law and that the agendas and meeting postings are all being done properly. And sometimes there's advice that's needed about how to deal with conflict of interest issue. And she's organizing onboarding for, some of you may have already gone through it, the newer people, but we're working on a more robust onboarding program for committee volunteers. Collective bargaining is well underway. For all of our union contracts that expired on June 30th, 2026, we have some that are settled and approved, others that are still in negotiations. We are planning right now for our 2027 annual town meeting. At the board meeting this week, the board will probably set the date. I've given them some options in conjunction with the moderator, the town clerk, our voting, electronic voting company and the school, and we'll present that to the board this week. We have a lot of budget activities going on right now. We're closing fiscal 26, opening fiscal 27, and we've already started prepping for fiscal 28. We are in conjunction with fiscal 28. I'm trying to sort of socialize this a little bit. We're going to be focusing closely on a 3 to 5 year budget forecast. We have one, but it isn't as robust as we would like it to be. Many municipalities in Massachusetts are facing the possibility of operating overrides, and in fact, this past spring, many of them put overrides before their voters. A lot of them were approved, some of them were not approved, and these are mostly operating overrides because non-discretionary expenses and rising personnel costs, including insurance, are exceeding tax and other revenues, so that they are either having to cut or seek additional revenue from the taxpayers. The Massachusetts Municipal Association, which the town of Nantucket is a member, issued a report in January entitled "The Perfect Storm." It's on their website. It lays out these challenges in detail. And in fact, the executive director of the MMA has appeared on a number of Massachusetts news stories about this topic. We are fortunate to have a low tax rate and the short-term rental revenue stream. But even with those, we are facing significant numbers with capital projects and growing personnel costs, including employee housing. Attracting and retaining qualified employees is expensive on Nantucket in particular, and our employee housing program has exploded beyond our capacity really to handle. We are all hands on deck to handle employee housing. We have a lot of transportation projects underway, Surfside area roads. Anyone who lives out in that area, Lovers Lane, Monahans Boulevard, all of those roads are either completed or in the process of being completed. And that project, it's quite a big project, includes drainage, bike path installation, utilities, traffic calming. We have annual road work that's completed pretty much for the summer, but that spring and fall is when that happens. And in association with annual road work, I get a lot of feedback about why can't we do better with our roads? The difficulty is we have some challenges with paving. There's a lot of work to do, and we have a limited capacity for paving. Our paving contractor has the only asphalt plant on the island out by the airport, and he is in the process of expanding it. But even so, it will not produce enough asphalt to do everything all at once, and it's very costly. And there are a lot of projects, not just town projects, but there's private work to be done as well. Annual sidewalk work. People may have noticed we did the I don't know the direction, the right side of Main Street heading up in front of Old Nobby Shop area, this spring. And the Tom Nevers bike path is in the very advanced planning stages. Hopefully, I was chatting with Peter earlier, hopefully that project will go out to bid towards the latter end of this year and start over the winter or next spring. We have a lot of sewer projects underway. The third sewer force main project is essentially complete. We have some upgrades at the Surfside wastewater treatment facility. Those are not complete, but they are in progress. And the Somerset sewer extension, that is in final design and outreach for those in the project area. As an aside, my own home is in the sewer, the Somerset project needs area. We had a homeowners association last weekend, and David Gray, our sewer director, attended and gave a very great informative presentation on what it is going to mean for homeowners. So if you are in that project area and you are in a homeowners association, definitely tell your head of that association to get in touch with David if they haven't already, because you're going to want this presentation to understand what the impact is going to be. Stormwater regs. At the annual town meeting, we adopted a bylaw that authorizes the select board to adopt stormwater regulations. We have a very robust internal work group on this, and we are about to review with the board, I think on August 5th, a timeline for our outreach planning. And that the regs probably won't be quite ready. They're in draft, being tweaked here and there right now with our internal group. And then the intent is to get feedback from stakeholders and the general public. I mentioned this, I guess it went a little viral at the Civic League meeting. There are going to be, if the board adopts these regulations, fees associated with stormwater. The infrastructure and staffing necessary to maintain kind of stormwater system that is needed on the island is going to cost money. And it is going to have to come from taxpayers and users and development projects. So that is all underway. And the fee that I'm talking about would be similar, not exactly the same, to the sewer and water fees that everybody who's on town sewer and water pays. More on that as we get developed. And again, we're reviewing our outreach timeline with the board on August 5th. Solid waste. We have a lot of projects going on with solid waste. We are transitioning into our new waste services agreement, which is with Waste Options, our landfill operator. And we're working on a lot of different long-term solid waste planning initiatives, including waste reduction, landfill operation efficiencies, and other improvements. Again, transitioning to the new waste services agreement. And we're always evaluating new technologies. I hear every now and then, oh, why don't you just burn everything? But that is not permitted in Massachusetts. Massachusetts has extremely strict laws, regulations, and requirements about solid waste disposal, and incineration is something that is not permittable right now in Massachusetts. And I interestingly had a seasonal visitor drop in yesterday to my office who is in the process of developing, in association with some other partners, some kind of advanced technology wastewater treatment facility in Fall River. And he was asking if we could take a look at that technology. It's not exactly solid waste, but maybe it's something to look at. So where that was just happenstance thing, but sometimes that's how these things go. So anyway, lots of evaluation about new technology. Facilities maintenance, again, we are understaffed for facilities maintenance. We have a lot of remote and scattered municipal buildings. They are not consolidated into one facility. That is something that we are trying to get a handle on, but it's not possible for our existing very tiny staff to get around to all of those buildings. And these buildings are getting older. They're having more issues and problems. We are in the process of developing an interior improvement plan for the town building at 16 Broad Street. That building has not undergone a real renovation since it was built in 1964. There is asbestos in the building. The lighting is terrible. And when you walk in there, it looks really shabby. And so we're trying to get a handle on that, but that's not the only building that is going to need some work. We are doing a haven't yet put it out to bid, but we are hoping to engage a firm to help us with a facilities operational assessment, so we can understand really how many facilities staff do we need to maintain our buildings. We're exploring AI, and our IT director has been working on an AI policy for the use of it within town government. And there is a lot of use going on with it right now. We're gonna look at it it's been used for minutes, and which is a big help. And enforcement, we're looking at how it can be utilized for things like that and planning. And there's, multiple uses, but of course, proceed with caution. So we're trying to do that. We've got a couple staff people who are really working on encroachments. Encroachments are a constant issue, and we get both, please remove this encroachment and please leave my encroachment. So there's just no winning on that. Planning for large capital projects. So some of these are approved, but some of them are in the works, including Baxter Road alternative access, Baxter Road emergency access, parking lot improvements, central municipal facility, senior center, employee housing, facilities maintenance and improvements, public restroom improvements. Sidebar on that. We do have a contract for public restroom improvements, including Sconset, downtown, and somewhere else, might be, Dionis. I can't quite remember, but DPW, thank you, Joe. Those projects are gonna start this fall. The downtown really needs some work. Coastal resiliency projects, including Washington Street corridor, Easy Street, downtown flood barrier, Ames Avenue, Tom Nevers. We are about to launch with the select board a re-review and prioritization of our capital improvement plan. And we're starting that on Wednesday at the board meeting with an overview of the current plan and some homework for the board. We need to really realistically prioritize the projects that are in the plan, and the plan needs to be a solid, clear, socialized document that people understand what is coming up. And we can't leapfrog projects. We can't decide today, oh, next year, by the way, we're gonna need this $20 million item. We need to really solidly plan for our capital items. After the board meeting on Wednesday, we're going to have a workshop meeting in August on a non-Wednesday to really get at this, and that will be a public meeting. Communications, we have a communications division within town administration, and they are really excellent at our newsletters, social media platforms, press releases, public comment responses. We're working with the radio, NCTV. We are really trying to get our community engagement efforts more recognized. We have a professional communications firm that helps with certain issues that require additional expertise. Our communications manager, Florencia Rulo, some of you may know her. She and a couple of other similar positions in other towns in Massachusetts have been the presenters at a couple of Mass Municipal and other association webinars and forums. So we're really happy because that means hopefully that we're looked at as an example for other municipalities. Housing has many initiatives going on, and they give regular reports to the select board. I'll touch on, I'm not probably doing this justice to their projects, but the Affordable Housing Trust and our housing department work together, and we have projects underway or in the planning stage. Tacoma Green, right next door here, you can see what's happening there. Waite Drive over here is going to have some employee housing. 136 to 138 Orange Street, Vesper Lane, and Bartlett Road are what we call the bundle. And those are properties a little bit scattered that the intent is to bundle them together for one developer to develop those into community and possibly municipal housing, but it's more community based. Okay, community housing, affordable, coastal resiliency planning. Lots of things at play here. We have many projects that are in the coastal resilience plan. We've had some recent discussion about updating that plan. It hasn't been updated since it was adopted in around 2019. different thinking is going to be needed, the operationalization of certain standards for different types of projects, renewable energy, climate action plan, clarifications on projections versus data. We've had some discussion over the past year or so about this. The state has issued sea level rise projections for Massachusetts, and they expect municipalities to work those into projects for which they are seeking grant funding. And our take on that is that those projections far exceed, or I shouldn't maybe say far, exceed the data that is now available that shows a lesser urgent, I shouldn't say lesser urgency, but if their chart is up here, ours is more not quite up there. So we're talking about how to deal with that. Long-term solid waste planning I talked about. We have a lot of water quality initiatives underway. And probably at some point you might want to get our biologist or natural resources director in to review all of those. We undertook a review of our concessions about a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago now. And that is something we're going to be presenting to the board this fall. There are the concessions of jetties, children's, and Surfside is what we focused on. And well, actually, those are the concessions. And the issue is, what kind of condition are they physically in? Are they up to whatever is coming down the road with sustainability and climate change and sea level rise? And are there options to dealing with them? I'm just going to mention children's as an example. Children's is in a flood zone, and if we are going to improve the building, we are going to have to bring it up to a flood zone standard, which is going to mean raising the building. It's going to be very costly. So we've been looking at what are the alternatives to having a concession building there, and do we still really need a concession building there, given the amount of options that are now much more available than they were back in the day when the concession was much more active in the general area. So we're going to be bringing that to the board in the fall. We are planning for additional office and meeting space. We all know that the meeting trailer is despised by everybody, but it does serve a purpose. That thing is used very regularly, but it is kind of on its last legs. It cannot be moved anymore. In our budget for fiscal 27, we have another one. It won't be there. It's going to be out here behind the 2 fairgrounds parking lot. And that is going to be used for meeting space and also as swing space. So for example, if we are going to undertake, or hopefully when we undertake the interior renovations at 16 Broad, some of those people may need a place to go for a period of time. So maybe that is the place where hopefully they would go. Offshore wind, I don't really want to spend too much time on this, but it is taking a lot more time of town administration than we ever imagined it would, considering it's really not even in our jurisdiction at all until the blade failure from 2024, which the fallout from which, no pun intended, is still ongoing. And we are under a drought, as everybody knows, and that is really not a town administration issue because the water department is specifically excluded from the umbrella of town administration. So they are handling it, but we are of course assisting as needed with outreach and other assistance that they might need. And I think that is my general overview, and I'm very happy to take any questions.
I'd ask a question, but I'm breathless. It's astounding, the breadth and depth of what the town is responsible for, and keeping it's like the little Dutch boy in the dike. So I promised Steve the first questions.
Sure.
This is more first of all, a note of appreciation. There is a communications committee consisting of Patty, Donna, and John, and myself, and we have been active in the past year or so, but we are very appreciative of the work of your communications program. And we met with Florencia Several times we met with you, we met with Deb. And just briefly, we're able to improve our activities using your platforms. Town IT is working on getting us an email address. And we are updating both our website and having a write-up in your next newsletter. And we certainly appreciate that help and assistance from the town. And I've got more things that I can say later in the meeting, but I wanted to ask your vision of how this group and non-voting taxpayers in general can help the town achieve some of the issues that it's dealing with.
Well, meetings like this are very helpful, especially now that they can be recorded and they're public and people can attend remotely or in person. And I think did we talk about your newsletter? Were you guys thinking of a newsletter?
That's on our
It's
list
on the-
of things
okay.
we're thinking about. We haven't, and we're thinking of a survey and we're thinking, but we haven't really finalized any of that.
Okay, so that's in the works, and I think that could be helpful. It seems like from talking to some of you and other non-voting taxpayers who aren't really they're not involved in the committee, they've never heard of the committee before.
Right.
Kelly here, for example, kind of knew there was a committee, but I appreciate her coming today because this type of thing helps get the word out about the committee and the issues that the non-voters have, which are valid and legitimate, and they do come forward to the select board pretty regularly, and some of them are not really your things, they're everybody's issues. So a little bit of a newsletter. There's not a really good way to pick out all the non-voters from, say, the taxpayer list. I don't know if going through it might help and I don't know, getting a mailing list together. Of course, email addresses are not part of that. So it's challenging to find that, but a place to start could be the homeowners associations that are in the Nantucket Civic League umbrella. And not all of them are in there, but a place to start could be getting those people more engaged. I'll just mention that in my own homeowners association, about half the people who own property in my neighborhood came to our annual meeting. And most of the people who came, we probably have about half year round, half non-year round. And it was probably about half and half that actually came to the homeowners meeting. So even, I don't know, it's hard to get people's attention until something is going to impact them directly and soon.
Yeah, it's just a done, once again, our now departed former chair, Gary Beller, who was on the Coastal Resiliency Committee, basically said, to that point, people don't really pay attention until they feel the water lapping at their ankles.
Yeah.
And we have that problem with Steve and the newsletter. I think there are really two different newsletters that we're talking about. One, as I understand it, you want to do a committee of the month thing, and I think we're cooperating to
we've got that article in the works, and they're planning on running it in the next issue.
Yep, and that's end of this month.
And then we also have this issue of, shouldn't we be doing something monthly, at least during the summertime or at other times too, where we might be able to communicate issues that you need communicated and issues that we need communicated, it seems to me, and see what the response will be. Not clear how one distributes it. On this identifying non-voting taxpayers, I've thought about this a little bit, but I've not followed up, but this is the way I'm thinking about it. And it came up with this issue that we have right now about what the select board is going to be doing with respect to the sort of the exemption, the residential exemption. and what seems to be clear from what the assessor put out is the town, at least leaving aside emails right now, has a way of separating through those assessments off-island addresses and on-island addresses. And that might be a first way to cut through this, is to at least get a list of all the off-island addresses for tax bills. It's not gonna be 100% perfect, and it's not gonna be 100% probably, but it's at least a way to start sorting and get some idea of that. So I'm gonna follow up with the tax assessor, see whether that's an idea that floats, or whether you can even
Sure.
reveal that kind of information. Jonathan, you.
Yeah, following what you were saying, we were discussing that very idea with Steve and Patty and John. One of the ideas of perhaps adding something to the tax bill for non-voting taxpayers, introducing ourselves, telling us about our mission, and wondered if that could be included in the tax bills. It's a way to reach out to our constituents. And then they know we exist, and then perhaps we can engage in some kind of conversations and follow up with issues that we wish to discuss that concern the town and us.
So that might be something to look at. However, there's not going to be a way to put a specific letter only to non-voters in the tax bills. That's just not possible. And whatever goes in the tax bill, there are specific like weight requirements and other requirements about, like, you can't just put ads in there, for example. But it's definitely something to follow up on, because even if it's a letter to non-voters, there's no reason why everybody can't
Be aware.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. So how would you suggest we follow up on
Well,
something?
I think you wanna develop, and then Jill might have some insight into this. You might wanna develop the letter and review it with us, and, just make sure it's not, illegal, which I don't think it would be. And see when a time frame might be where it could go in, because there is a bit of advanced planning that will need to be done with that, with the group that sends out the tax bills. They'll have to have this insert to go in there.
We actually have a template, if you will, already about our mission and so forth. And it's basically this is who we are, and if you're interested, kind of thing.
I think also the select board would want to approve the issuance of that in the tax bill. So perhaps there's a presentation that a couple of you come to a select board meeting and review that.
Yeah, and I this is something that we've batted around here from time to time, but I don't think it's an issue that the entire committee has considered. The pros and cons of, that way, because it seems to me to be a very expensive way of doing something that we're having trouble doing, which is basically getting an inexpensive way, i.e. emails to communicate with people.
But actually, Peter, when we had our meeting this week, we did discuss that, and with Florencia. And one page, I don't think makes that much of a difference in mailing. So we thought that might be, perhaps, if the select board approves and so forth. And certainly we're in the rudimentary stages of putting this together. Steve, why don't?
Yeah,
you
well,
say
no, I was
something?
gonna say that's one of a number of things the committee has talked about. We want to talk with this group about it before we involve Libby and the select board, I think. But I mean, it's one of the things we've talked about. I mean, we believe, all 15 of us believe, that we can help the town, and I think, and we have, I've been in this group for 3 years, but we have town government officials, department heads come and speak. We've now been promoting them in the online newsletters, and we've gotten, 10, 20, sometimes 30 people, and I see there are a bunch of names of people who are probably just listening in. So I mean, I think we're having some success in outreach, but obviously reaching 30 people is not the same as reaching a couple hundred or more.
Yeah. And so let's continue going around and the table, go ahead.
Let me thank you for being here today. Do appreciate that you do spend your private time. I see this, but do appreciate you spending your private time with us. I have a couple of issues that I'd like to touch on. First issue is the lack of parking in town. Problem that will exist for another 6 weeks and then go away for another 40 weeks. I don't know where we are dealing with that problem. I see that the old electric building is being renovated. I don't know if the issue of buying that property is still on the table to set up a transportation center and maybe do something for additional parking. Any comments that you have on what's happening regarding parking?
Well, parking is challenging to figure out, and the board has had some discussion over the last few years about paid parking downtown. And there is not a clear path towards that right now, but maybe they'll bring that back up in their strategic plan. We are really trying to promote public transportation use, but people love their cars. And they do not like to get out of them and leave them at home and take some other way to get downtown. The Candle Street property, owned partially by National Grid and partially by New England Development, we're not quite sure what is happening with that. They are fixing up the building that was going to be a transportation center 20 years ago, to, I think, just make it look better. And I'm not quite sure what the usage is going to be over there. Hopefully next year, the valet parking will be back. That may be part of the big problem downtown this summer. It's not available. And other than that, anybody's guess is probably as good as mine as to how we're going to solve our parking problem. This is something that has, if you look in the I&M's looking backward column, it's in there a lot.
It's also a coastal resiliency problem
Well,
on that particular piece of property.
Yeah.
Which apparently, according to the state, is worse than we thought it was. Worse meaning higher water levels than previously predicted. It's really, if you have a good suggestion,
I've been advocating for a parking deck.
Yeah.
I'm in Naples, Florida during the winter. We have a couple of parking decks down in Naples. You couldn't tell that they were parking decks the way they've designed them. They really look beautiful.
They're attractive.
There's a need for more parking. You can't simply raise more parking places by charging for parking. At some point, we're gonna have to come head to head with that project or some other project to alleviate the parking problem. I work for Naples, for Barrett Tours, and am downtown every day and see what's happening. There's just not enough space for the vehicles that are coming into town. And when people come into town and can't find a parking place, they ride around and around, keep looking for a parking place, adding to the traffic problem. It's a serious issue that needs to be addressed, and you're correct. We do have a problem with regard to flooding. With regard to the site where the electric company once existed, that property is contaminated. I think, and I may be wrong, but I think that the DEP would allow that property to be capped. It's not leaching into the harbor, and anyone that uses that property, putting up something that's permanent, would be able to either cap that property with concrete or with blacktop. but maybe the issue should be looked at more, closely to see if a parking deck may be a solution to the problem. Put up 100 and 150 parking places, it's gonna solve our parking problem. The other issue that I'm gonna throw out to you, Libby, just is asking for an update on what's happening with Tom Nevers Field. I'm about 3/8 of a mile from Tom Nevers Field. Was at a meeting 2 nights ago on the bike path that's gonna be going by the front of my property. And every year that we go away for the winter and come back in the spring, there's less and less property from Tom Nevers Field that's left from erosion. I think the property that was originally purchased from the federal government back in 1965, probably half of what we purchased.
So we've had 2 appropriations to deal with the removal of debris that is buried all throughout there and associated erosion control measures. And that project is in the design and permitting stage. So that's.
So let's continue going around so the people who have not been heard yet.
Did you want to?
Well, I have a separate question if I can have it.
Yeah, maybe committee members first, and then we'll get to the public, if that's okay. Did you have, you had?
I was just gonna comment on the public relations aspect and think that I believe we'd be better off trying to get articles in the Inky and in Current and the other private communications media rather than trying to do it through the town. It'll be probably easier and be able to happen on a regular basis. So maybe going to Josh Balling and asking him to, if we can do a monthly.
Well, even in terms of the notices that I've been sending out about these meetings, the Inky has been extremely cooperative. Daybreak has been, Current, much less so in the last few, they put us in the section where they do the coming events, like the Mariah Mitchell Aquarium is open today. So I had one conversation.
It's not perfect, but it's gonna be
no,
more regular than trying to do it through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's, one of the things that but I don't want to take Libby's time away. But I mean, that's something that we're working on.
Yeah, I think there are 2 different communications issues, once again. One is the, what are we doing this week, type of issue. And the other is communicating on the issues of concern. And I think that both the Inky and the Current have been, very, very receptive to articles. Gene had a article in there last year. I've had an article, usually 1 a year at some point when we're dealing with something that we've all voted on that we want to get our voice out. And that, I don't know whether anybody's read them, but at least they get published. So let me just go over here to Peter, and then we'll come back and.
Maybe I had 2 questions. One, I guess a big issue. The other, smaller issue, but probably equally aggravating. First big issue is our island home. Obviously that passed both at town meeting and passed by the voters. I'm curious though as to how town, I guess maybe it's more of a select board question, will maintain oversight, because these projects already obviously extraordinarily expensive to complete, and we can find ourselves with even more cost. And I'm just curious about that. And then the follow-up, which would be, in a way, it ends up with what Lou was talking about on encroachments. Traffic downtown. I mean, India Street is a good example. I mean, there are yellow lines up and down that street, as there are on many streets, and yet, understandably, when you've got a driveway, there should be a yellow line, but it doesn't need to extend down 3 houses thereafter. I'm just very curious how that is. Yeah, it won't solve the parking problem, but it will free up a good number of spots.
So I think Patty had another question.
Can we get an answer?
You need a response.
I'll get some answers, yeah.
You get a response?
Not yet.
No, so, our island home, do you mean how will the town maintain oversight on the construction?
I guess, yeah,
Or-
as
okay.
this goes forward in the cost control, basically.
So with the construction specifically, we are in a program called Construction Manager at Risk. And there is a maximum price, which even if it's exceeded, the contractor cannot go over that. We will not pay over a certain amount. We have an owner's project manager, which is required by law, who will have an on-site owner's project representative there to maintain, that sort of oversight, make sure they're doing everything correctly. There will be, weekly meetings once we really get going. I mean, this is a very large construction project and it will meet all of the requirements of a very large municipal construction project. And as an aside, I've got a meeting early next week to go over, donations and what a donation program could look like, probably through the community foundation, and how people might donate and help offset the cost of the taxpayer. The operational expenses going forward, we've done a pro forma a couple of times on a new facility, and notwithstanding the debt service that is obviously going to be significant that will go forward, the actual operational expenses of the facility are not expected to be much higher than they are now. It will be a bigger facility, but there will be expenses that we won't have there that we have now, energy and other things like that. At some point, some additional staff might be needed. We hope that will be a little bit offset by other services that will be provided there, PT, OT, things like that. And so hopefully that answers that question.
Can I just, one quick point, on the contributions, when you say there'll be an offset, will there actually, how do you see that working?
Well, that's part of the meeting that we're having early next week, but perhaps the way we see that working is the donations could offset the debt service payments. And I mean, they'd have to be significant
Right.
to make a real difference.
Yeah, it's hard to raise it though after,
I know.
after, it's sort of.
It is very
And
hard.
then the legality of calling it a charitable donation is questionable.
Well, it would be a charitable donation. I mean, I have had preliminary conversations with the community foundation. If they have a fund already set up, it's not open yet. But, it would be tax deductible. Anything that goes through them is tax deductible, as I understand it. But I agree, there's, why giving a donation in light of the projects now approved is kind of tricky.
And I'm just on the encroachment.
The yellow line reduction idea has been reviewed more than once by our internal staff. And at one point, at the initiative of a select board member, perhaps 10 or 15 years ago, someone was tasked with going around downtown and measuring every yellow line and determining if it is sufficient for its purpose. And I think maybe 2 parking spaces were gained out of that. So it's really not going to result in, even if what we found, I think, is that a couple of yellow lines were removed, and the people whose driveways backed into there came in and said, no, it was there so I could back out of my driveway, and then it got put back. So
Well.
but if you have a specific line, you can run it.
Your favorite, everybody said your
favorite yellow
favorite
line.
yellow line
Yeah.
with a picture and measurements. So Patty and then Bob, and then we go to
Maybe the
our
screen.
select board member and members vote.
Well, I have a loaded but politically incorrect question. So do you see for our island home a special assessment down the road?
No. Do you mean a special assessment in what way for people who are?
Well, our
Using it?
budget is such a, at such a level, it's not, I don't know, it's sustainable. I don't know how you can do all the design of a plate.
Well,
Raise everybody's taxes.
yeah, that's the special assessment everybody's gonna pay. The residents obviously are paying already to be there. Will their rates go up? Their rates just went up recently, and over time they will continue to go up. hopefully Medicaid and Medicare rates will also continue, the reimbursement rates will continue to go up to cover all of this, but I don't see a special assessment now.
What, the other last thing I was gonna say, did you get in the mail the wanna comment little cards that we all got in the mail where you it was brilliant in terms of marketing, I think, in that there's a QR code, you just go to that and get an answer to it. I would think that if you put down, is the town going to give us a special assessment for our island home? Look to the QR code, you would get people going to that and you would get a response. I just thought that was a simple, broad spectrum way of appealing to. I was at the Civic League forum and very, very disappointed with all of our budget constraints in front of you, that there weren't more people a little concerned, at least a little concerned. And my thought is, do they not know what's coming down the road? And the beauty of the one comment thing was there was one item that they could call or check in with and get an answer to, at least get some discussion going in the community.
I think our comms people probably assisted want to comment with that effort. I'm not personally on town water, but the town of Nantucket got like 12 of those because we have many properties that are on town water. And we're not exempt from the drought either. But your point about it, using QR codes more for people to go direct to informational sources.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we are actively working on stuff like that. And the idea of a little postcard, I'm intrigued by that. Maybe that's a way to get out some information to people as well with a QR code on it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for being here, Ruby, and I just have to acknowledge what a humongous job that you have. A many-headed hydra. I mean, it's just such a huge responsibility. I kind of admire the tenacity to stick with it. My question is, as you're reviewing the capital improvement plan and all these other projects, and we have a new finance director, I gather her credentials look pretty impressive. It would be helpful to me, and maybe others, to get a projection of how much, when do you expect taxes to double, including overrides, and triple in the capital project, you know, as these things go on 5 years, 10 years, what does someone think the actual income needed is gonna be and how it relates to what you're getting now? Because I can see things have to double. Things might have to triple when you're talking about all the coastal resiliency and all these things that you're talking about. It's a huge number, and where's the money gonna come from? It's not the question for me. I'm not because I don't know. But as a non-voting taxpayer, and you want to talk about things lapping at people's ankles, if non-voting taxpayers hear something, they may not want to hear the answer to this question. But at some point, these things are gonna double in truth.
So the doubling and tripling idea obviously depends on a lot of factors. But that is something that we are gonna need to get into with this renewed focus on the capital improvement plan. And as an aside, August 5th, our financial advisor from Hilltop Securities we'll have a presentation from her about borrowing, and the overview will include, just for the general knowledge of people, how municipal borrowing works. And it will focus on the current projects and what those look like with annual borrowing until those projects' lives are over, or the bonds are up. And I don't know that we're gonna have necessarily all of our new projects in there yet, but that is something that will be worked on over the next few months as we get closer to a plan that the board, a reprioritized, realistic plan that the board can approve. The coastal resiliency projects are one of the hugest drivers in the capital improvement plan right now. As you probably know, in the current CRP, there are hundreds of millions of dollars worth of projects, like $500 million. That is out over a period of time, 30+ years. But part of the thinking, I think, is that hopefully there will be some federal government assistance and or grants to offset some of that, but let's face it, that's gonna be a tiny portion of it. There has been some discussion, it requires special legislation for coastal resilience districts. So that's where a special assessment might work or be applied for areas where erosion is active and the area impacts only those people, but there might be municipal or other services in the area that not everybody would be paying for, only the people in the area would be paying for. So that is far from being fully developed, but it is definitely a consideration. But I think your concern is well-founded because we have a lot of infrastructure improvements to get at, and everything on Nantucket is twice as expensive as it everywhere else.
And so those numbers, not just the tax base, but the overrides and all the other things, is that's the real number. Not just how much the taxes are going up, you
Right.
know, by millage rates. So
Yeah, so, yeah, and
big
so
numbers.
it's big numbers.
But aren't the overrides included in the millage rates?
Yes, for periods of time. So a
Yeah.
debt exclusion is only tacked onto your tax bill for the length,
For the
life of
life
the
of the
debt.
debt, yeah.
And a capital exclusion is only on for 1 year,
Yeah.
but an operating override would be permanent.
Yeah, right now, Power Island home override is an example of a annual override that keeps getting renewed or, looked at and renewed.
There's 2 overrides for Island Home.
Yeah.
One is an operating override that was approved several years ago,
Yeah.
that for the operations of the facility. The item we most recently approved is a debt exclusion, and that has a life of whatever the length of the debt is. Which I think is
And so that's
on until we actually borrow the money.
correct. And we won't borrow all the money at one time.
Yeah, and it's really, the finances here are so incredibly complicated. For somebody who is not, their job is coming here for the summer, not to, run a city. Okay, so let me go, I think all the members have
Check
had.
those on the screen.
I'd like to speak when you can.
Yeah, this one's members on the screen.
Yeah,
Or John go and then.
No, Eric, let Eric go. He's on the committee. Go ahead, Eric.
Libby, I have a question about the residential exemption. Is there a proposal before the select board to raise the exemption? And if not, when will that develop? Would there be a time where we know that there's a proposal to raise the exemption from 25% to 30%? Or, because I think my view is how we should react and advise on this issue depends very much on specifically what's proposed and what are the reasons. And I'm just wondering whether we're just going to find out this happened or whether we will know there's a proposal and we'll have something to address, because just addressing it generally is not productive in my view.
And
There
could
is
I
no-
jump in right here? Because Eric is asking the question I was going to ask. And from my standpoint, my brother is a voting taxpayer on the island. I am not. And obviously there's such a difference in tax consequences as a result of that. And so Eric is asking the question that I wanted to ask as well about that differentiation and how sensitive is the select board and you, Libby, to the issue of non-voting taxpayers paying more than what other residents on the island pay. I know that there's a legality that's provided. Peter Kahn is very vocal on issues of discrimination against non-voting taxpayers. I gather this is one that's allowed, of course, as a residential exemption of some sort. But
Yeah, but so while Libby's thinking, I would just say that I attended by hybrid attendance the select board, recent select board meeting where this was discussed, and there does not appear to be a proposal right now. It's just they're doing the same thing we're doing, which is knowing about this. But also, John, one of the points that was made by Bob DeCosta at that meeting, it was something that I had not really thought about, and perhaps none of us had, is that it's not just us summer residents that are affected by the residential exemption. It's all the renters on the island too, the year-round renters. And so there is a political constituency, which Bob, I think, voiced at that meeting, against even making a proposal this year, the way I'd put it, because as I understand it, his point that landlords will not be favored with the exemption, and therefore their property taxes would increase just like ours would, and they would just pass along to their renters, and so this is a great big. It's in flux, and Eric, I think, and John, there's not a proposal there yet. There's just a lot of thoughtful thinking, not to be redundant.
Right, but Libby, what I want to focus on is, if that's correct, if there's no proposal currently, will there be a time where we know there is a specific proposal that we can react to?
So, Peter pretty much summarized it. There is no proposal right now. The board had a general discussion about it a month or so ago. And they more or less agreed to discuss it again when prior to setting the tax rate, which usually happens towards the end of the year. And I think I let you know when the discussion that we most recently had was coming up. So yes, you will know about it. It will be well publicized by us, but also by the press, because everybody pays attention to this. And I think the board had a pretty thoughtful discussion about it with these other points of view that are coming into it. And so, yes, you will definitely know before. It won't just happen without anybody knowing.
Yeah, it just didn't happen that I happened to tune into the meeting, but I did get a warning from Libby saying this is going to be on the agenda, and I was very thankful for that, and still am, because it was an education. Indeed, on issues that are of concern to you, watching a select board meeting is, it's better than watching reality television, and you might learn something.
Project on that, it is reality.
Yeah.
And you might want to have somebody on the committee, if this isn't already happening, just go to the town website once a week and see what's coming up on the select board's meeting agenda.
Yeah. Could I add one other thing? Just point of personal privilege, Libby. You, as Peter said originally after your presentation, it's an absolutely incredible the breadth of information and coverage really that you're required to do for a town that really isn't super big. I know it gets big in the summer, but it's absolutely mind-boggling how you stay on top of all these things. So thank you for your service. Thank you for all you do. And also thank you as a member of our ACNVT communications team. Thank you for making your communications team available to us. Florencia was very helpful, and she was willing to offer staff people to help us do the things that we need to do to put ACNVT on the map so that everybody knows that there's an entity that exists to speak on behalf of non-voting taxpayers. So again, thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. And I would be remiss in not noting that I have an amazing staff and really amazing support from the select board. The town administration and the select board works very well together, which in my opinion is as it should be. We need to support each other. And that is how initiatives and things get done. So I appreciate that, but it is by far not just me.
Right. And Deb is awesome.
She is, yes, thank you.
So the, now I think, Gil, if you had something, or is it, we sort of repeated that here?
Well, no, but, I'm just gonna mention the street listing. I assume that's the best, when you're talking about communications, that's the best way to reach people. Is street listing. It's called the street listing, and you can get a copy of that from the clerk's office, and it lists all the property owners on Nantucket by name and by address. So, and they'll send it to you in an Excel spreadsheet as well, if you want to sort and file that. That's been available for years, I think. It's a way to, if you want to do it that way, that really is the best way to go through that list, rather than asking the assessor to do it. And also, Peter, I was the one who brought up the renters issue. Bob said he wanted everybody to feel the pain across the board of paying for the debt, but yeah, that did come up in our meeting, and we had a good discussion about the rates, and I personally was in favor of doing that, but after reading about it, after being elected a little bit more, I feel the cost button personally on wanting to change the exemption number.
But we'll see what percolates, but it may be that some of us will have ideas to sort of feed into the discussion. But I have no idea what the group thinks. I only know what
I
one or two
put
people.
that into my thinking.
Yeah. So, and I'm sorry, I cut you off earlier, so what is your
Bob
question?
Coulter, I'm a 23-year summer resident. My question is about density on the island. People have been talking about, they're about cars and everything. And really, from you, an assessment and an idea, really how much more housing do we need? How much affordable housing do we need? And why does it seem it's all being built mid-island? So why does it seem like, we have Richmond, we have more and more housing going in along Old South, which is now unbearable all day, all the time. And you have Tacoma Green on the fairgrounds, which is going to impact Old South also. And then you have Surfside, which is probably going to happen, which is also going to be fairground, Surfside, it's going to stop, all the benefit we've got from Lovers Lane going Boulevard to Surfside is now in the summer tough because it gets backed up now already. So if we put more, 150 new houses on the Surfside, it just seems like Mid-Island is a place that is bearing an unusual brunt of any housing. But my real question is, how much do we really need?
I think that's an excellent question, to which I do not have the answer. The Affordable Housing Trust, I know, and our housing department are grappling with that very question. And I don't know how they're gonna come up with an answer, but it's an excellent question that needs some sort of a range of an answer, probably. The brunt of where this housing is all located is probably primarily driven by the availability of infrastructure and public transportation. And I totally hear what you're saying. It is adding to a lot of issues that we're all struggling with to get in and out of town. And I also don't know what the answer to that is. I will say that the planning board, which is the municipal board responsible for the development and adoption of a master plan, should be considering those things in that plan. That plan is in the final stages of being developed and hopefully, I guess, adopted towards the end of the summer, early fall. And I think the question of density and the question of how much more housing do we need is not something that is within the scope of my specific work. It impacts my work, definitely. But I am not the one who's actually trying to figure that out. Other people are. But that might be a good guest to have in, the housing director and or the Affordable Housing Trust chair, to discuss the plans and programs and how are they going to get at that.
It's who we.
How many town employees, whether it's fire, police, do you feel are short of housing?
What's the
impact of, what's the scope of that? Is that
Yeah, that number constantly changes, but I'm gonna say short of housing, probably at least 100.
100 town employees.
I'm just, that's a swag
Yeah, okay.
and a random type of guess. But I'm gonna say based on people who are either in overcrowded housing, don't have housing, who are commuting and or who are remote, it probably more or less totals about that number.
Oh, okay,
Ish.
thank you.
What is it, what would be the percentage? What is it, what would that be as a percent?
Yeah, about 10.
10.
10 to 20 maybe even, I would say, and when I would go up a little bit in that number, it's housing that is not, you know, it's not single family, it's multi, perhaps family, or somebody has a room in a house with a whole bunch of other people.
Thank you. Thank you.
How many units would we need to get to the 10% affordable housing stock that the state requires?
So that's another excellent question that the housing people should answer, but we are at a little over 8% of the affordable housing requirement from the state, and I honestly don't quite remember how many units, it's less than 100. I think.
I think it's been about 3 years since we've had the housing person. Because whenever the transition was from the former housing person to the current housing person, we think we had the former housing person, and not the current housing person who would.
Didn't we have the fellow from the Affordable Housing Trust?
Yeah, we had them in the fall.
We had, what's his name?
This year?
This year.
Was it,
Yeah,
He's
we
a
had,
realtor?
Brian Sullivan?
Brian, yeah, wasn't Sully?
Yeah, this is a different person.
You may have had Tucker before.
Yeah,
Tucker
Yeah.
Hall.
Tucker that we had.
But you need Christy Ferrantella in here,
Yeah,
she's our
exactly.
municipal housing director, and maybe with
Thank you for
Brian.
filling in the names.
No problem.
So we can do that again. I think we can also, it's probably time for Mike Burns to come back, who is the transportation and traffic guy. And it's very, very knowledgeable, and probably a number of other people like that, because when I go around, the biggest issue that I hear about is traffic, and I don't know how to solve it, but I know there's some tests and plans going on now. There's some new stop signs here and there. So it's a topic that's under constant consideration. But will we, stop downtown from looking like the Long Island Expressway in August? I don't know that there is a way, unless we do an overpass.
If it makes us feel any better, which it doesn't, there was an article in the Martha's Vineyard Times a week or two ago entitled something like "How many more people can be here?" On the vineyard, and it was, you could have just substituted Nantucket for it. It's a struggle over there as well.
Yeah, well, my personal mantra is this: when I'm sitting there trying to get to the airport or trying to get away from the airport, which is, this is better than any place else. And which is probably true. It's just a matter of degree. So I have 2 questions from Kathy Baird, who could not be here today. And the first one is, I'm doing the first order. Committee hearings and like this in town meetings. We are able to do them hybrid, which has been a very, very important thing for us, especially off season. Because of first the emergency declaration of the governor that permitted this during COVID. And then I think there's a temporary law, and I cannot remember when that sunsets, but I think it's in a year or 2. And where do we all stand on this? And is the town sort of got their eye on it and trying to continue hybrid meeting legally?
So I don't know why the state just doesn't make that a law and stop this continued extension of it. We've had this discussion with our legislative representatives and they seem supportive of it. I think that overall the town is very supportive of continuing with remote and hybrid meetings because it brings in more people.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier sometimes. So we're supportive of it. We're trying to keep track of it with our legislators. But I think, did you all write a letter that we sent in? Early on, we might have.
It took years ago. I
Yeah.
think I wrote a letter at some point, and I can't remember whether I went through the town or
Yeah,
indirectly, but
I,
this was really important to us.
yes, and the Mass Municipal Association is behind it as well, which can be very influential. So who
Yeah,
knows?
so if you need, some of us to turn on the spigot or something.
Yeah, well, if you
let us
know
know
any
and
legislators, get in touch with them.
It's sort of key to our operations.
Sure.
Here. Then the other thing is that last time, and this is again from Kathy, last time you were here, last year, you mentioned the sort of, it's the skills list that you'd like to develop of people, who will volunteer to do things that the town needs because they happen to have skills that the town may not have. And I know we've thought about it from time to time, but we've never followed up on our end. And the question is, are you still looking for sort of, it's like the reserve team or something that you can throw into things or better, from, summer residents, basically, who have a variety of skills, and some of us have more time than others and what have you.
I mean, we always can benefit from a particular skill that might help us grapple with a problem. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking employee housing is definitely one of those. Bob Vidoni, who, Bob, I'm sorry, talked to me when we were doing our little interview, and did you meet with the housing people?
On the 22nd.
So,
13th,
Bob is maybe a good example of this. He mentioned his prior experience with a whole variety of facilities management and maintenance and housing projects. So I connected him with Christy, because it's not just maintenance that we have issues with, it's allocation of housing. How much rent do we charge? How do we pick who goes into what? And if they have a family or friends or whatever that kind of come with them or don't come with them or could come with them. And how do you make this fair? And is it a stipend? Is it part of their salary? What are the tax implications? We're grappling with all of this like every day. So if somebody has particular expertise in something like that, some kind of detail oriented, I've handled this before in such and such a municipal situation, and I'd be happy to go over my experience with you. That's very helpful. And that is where something like that could come in very handy.
Good, okay, and if you, if there are other areas that
Sure.
you have holes in, just, write to one of us and we will, send it around, or from the applications, if you know what people do, feel free to contact them directly,
Okay.
which you do with Bob, which is great. And so the strategic plan is coming out soon, I think, and we're looking forward, and as I understand, it's still under discussion.
So the master plan which is being handled by the planning board, is coming out soon, is my understanding, yes. The strategic plan, which is what the board it works on, is online. Anybody can look at it, and they update it in October. The master plan had a number of community engagement sessions where people could go in, and I think you all were definitely invited to that. I don't know right at this exact moment when they might have another one, or when they might give an update at planning board, but I can find out and let you know.
Okay, and I can look online too and see what that is. And then I'm gonna send you a letter, I think, in the near future, which is drafted, about making us special town employees rather than just town employees. And don't need to go into the legalities of that now, but by and large, it would keep us. One of the problems with all the education you've been doing for us is that we learned something, and it raises questions. And it seems to me that given that we're all volunteers and work less than X number of hours a year, that instead of being regular town employees, we should be under Massachusetts designation as special town employees, which changes only the following thing. This is a conflict of interest issue. We still cannot have any conflicts with respect to what we're doing here. But with respect to what somebody might be doing with another board or committee or something else that might be in conflict with the town, that is permitted under this special.
We can talk to you about that offline. We took a look at this a little bit already, and I don't think this committee is really needs to be designated a special municipal employee group, but we can talk to you about what.
I'd like to learn more. Yeah. Good. Okay,
What
well,
does that mean?
hmm?
What would that mean?
Excuse me?
What does that mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah.
I'll send you a copy of the letter. Give me your thing. It's really convoluted and I'm still just understanding it. But it just struck me that with the litigious nature of people nowadays, that members of this committee would be better served being special town employees than regular town employees.
Give you a different kind of indemnity, maybe?
It's. But it makes clear, it reduces their conflict liabilities. In terms of just having to announce their conflicts to the secretary here and recusing themselves from matters before this board, but it would not restrict their activities if they're employed by somebody else or whatever in front of another board. And it's just one of those things that in the training, it all of a sudden, and this is right, for towns of less than 10,000 people, people like us are automatically special employees. Towns of more than 10,000 people, which this is, we become regular employees, subject to, I think it's the select board granting us this other status. So this is a normal thing in Massachusetts for small towns.
I think it also applies to open meeting violation, like talking, if you talk amongst yourself or you talk to.
No, the
client.
open meeting issue is the open meeting issue. It's just as a conflict of interest sort of situation.
The special municipal employee designation is more designed for people who have business with the town and or with other regulatory boards and who have some sort of either decision-making or input requirements and decision-making. And I don't
We
know.
have no decision-making other than.
Well,
what to
you're just,
say and tell you.
you're advisory, but so that's why I'm not sure it's necessary, but we can definitely talk about
It's
that.
one of these, it's on the cusp of.
Well, I certainly understand that conflict of interest is always something that, you know, is raised all the time about things, and a lot of times it's really not. Yeah.
Okay, but I didn't want to muck up the meeting with that, but
Sure.
I did it quite a while ago and it's kind of hovering around my head. I want to get a little bit off my chest. Okay, well, thank you very much, Lydia, and thank you all for your good. Don't go anyplace else.
Well, thank you all very much. I really do appreciate that. And I appreciate Jill coming and definitely hope you get some other department heads and others in here because we have a really great team of people working for the town and I'm really proud of them. So thank you, but thank you.
It's really quite amazing, the level of the public employees that you have under your watch in this town. No complaints, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go back to the rest of our agenda. What I'm going to do is sort of go right now to the election of ACNBT officers, because I may have been illegally conducting this meeting. And so I'm going to sort of open this. We have 3 elected officers, for want of a better term. There's the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. And so why don't we go in any order you want to, and, you know, for the chair position, are there nominations?
Is there any
I would-
reason why the current officers would not want to be reelected?
There may well be, one reason. So, Peter.
Well, I would move the reelection of Peter Howie to the chair position. Peter has served us well over the terms he served and has a great knowledge base, and I think has worked well with the team. And so I would do that. At the same time, I would announce that I will not stand for reelection. As many of you may have heard, the historic life-saving facility out in Surfside at the youth hospital has been bought and by island residents and Congregation Charahayon members, David Gregory and Beth Wilkinson, and they are in the process working with the synagogue to restore that property and make it a permanent home for the congregation after sort of 43 years of wandering in the desert. And I have, I guess, the privilege of helping lead that project. So that's going to take a considerable amount of time, but one we think will benefit the town. I will remain on the board, remain on the committee until I guess 29, but I will not have the time to devote to this that it deserves. So hopefully someone else will step forward.
It's I think a loss of the leadership group, and but we know where you live.
You know my phone number.
So
I will second. I'll second the nomination of.
Sure, keep moving.
I shouldn't be running this, but any other nominations? In that case, you know, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Speak up now.
Other than you.
No, thank you. Well, no, I must say, I'm doing this because I enjoy this group, and I think we have a good sort of what the statute tells us what we ought to do, and I think we try our best to do it, and I think it's a worthwhile thing for the island and us. It's a very small thing, but something that needs to be done. I'm glad you're all participating in it. And I appreciate what I learned from you, which, you know, every time I come away from one of these meetings, and sometimes when I hear very, very different points of view, it helps to change my point of view, because somebody, you've got better ideas than I do, let's say. But thank you. So who for vice chair, why don't we go to do an easy one? I asked Kathy whether she was willing to serve another, and she said, unless somebody's interested in she's willing to do it. And so for secretary, there is I'll place a nomination if I can, Kathy Baird, for another term as secretary.
Second.
Yeah. Anything else? Now, Kathy, of course, doesn't know that the vice chair position is open, but she does just an amazing job as secretary. So all those in favor, any other nominations for secretary? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, no opposed. So do we have a nomination for vice chair? You know, I don't have an idea about this. And I'm, you know, who do we have somebody who would be willing to sub? I don't want to just nominate somebody unless knowing this is something that they would want to do. But it strikes me that my friend Steve Perlman has been, you know, pretty closely involved here and has a lot of good ideas, and actually has been doing some work and has local contacts. Is this, Steve, is this something that interests you?
Doesn't come to the top.
No, but would you, if you're masochistic, is this something that you would enjoy doing?
I don't think so.
I hate to put you on the spot, but
Is this something we could, delay postpone until the next meeting?
we probably could, and indeed, it
Yeah,
might
good
be
idea.
the wise thing, and people in, without violating the public meeting laws, may want to talk amongst themselves, and come up with a suggestion that we can act on the last meeting.
Excellent.
Does that sound like a,
Good idea.
okay, good. Okay, well, thank you. So let's go back to Steve, who is just, but he hasn't said no, he just hasn't said yes.
No, I'm happy to give a brief, follow-up report on the communications or PR committee as we said, and as Libby said, we did meet, the committee met, several times. And actually we met in October in what, I guess Kathy and Deb, had a discussion whether it was a legal meeting, since there were four of us. Well, actually only three of us from this committee and John Delano, who has since joined, but it was determined we were just making recommendations to a committee which we're still in the process of doing. So, and we very much appreciate the meetings that Libby, that you arranged with Florencia and Deb, and then a follow-up meeting we have. And the four of us have had some follow-ups. We have submitted something and are working through it. Are updating our page on the town website. A draft of a write-up in the next newsletter. The fact that IT is working on giving us an email address, which we think will be very important for incoming emails, and no one's personal email will ever be used, but our talking is that members would have access to it, or one or two members of this group would be primarily monitoring it and sharing it either with everyone or with people who are involved. But we, Peter, you opened the meeting calling our group trusted advisors to the town. So one of the things that the goals that we have are to increase our visibility, provide a channel for people to be heard, provide a way for us to reach non-voters and for them to reach the town, bringing their expertise. And as we have been doing for the time I've been involved, continuing to have presentations by town officials, by select board members, by department heads and by others, for example, steamship authority and stuff like that. So to keep us informed, and our goal would be to not just have these meetings, but make there be more of a way for what happens and is discussed at these meetings to be shared. And Jean, your comment earlier that maybe we'll just use the Inky and the Current, and occasionally send out a message to all or all whose emails we have. Maybe that's the way we'd start. But I would ask Patty or Donna or John if they want to add anything to what I've said.
I think you've summarized it well, Steve. And by the way, Peter, I'll be the first to nominate Steve for vice chair when you're ready. Awesome job. I think what's important is that, well, first of all, we've put in, and under Steve's leadership, we have put in a heck of a lot of time on the communications. Patty and Donna and Steve, and I've been happy to join in. And thanks to Libby and her staff, I just feel like we're so far ahead of where I thought we might be, really, after just a short time working on this. Um, uh, Peter Halley knows well because he has been helping us edit versions of things that I've been putting together and sharing with our committee, and our committee signs off on everything before we distribute it. I think one of the questions that we need to resolve is how many people want to be in on these communications. A committee of 15 doesn't work when it comes to writing things. I can tell you that from my experience in broadcasting. But again, anybody who wants to be part of Steve's committee on communications, Steve, I don't know if I can speak for you, but I'm assuming anybody on ACNVT who'd like to be part of this should be willing to join us, and happy to include you as we draft these things. I think, and Peter, you can tell us what the proper procedure is, but what we've been doing is sharing our drafts with the officers, with you in particular, Peter, to help edit and sign off on things before we take them to the town. Or I have a draft of the newsletter, the committee of the month for Libby's next newsletter, that we haven't finally resolved yet from a committee subcommittee. I don't know whether we'll call ourselves a subcommittee, might be better. But bottom line is that I've been very impressed with the work that has happened thus far. So thank you, and thank you, Steve, for your leadership.
Yeah, the committee really has been doing a lot of work, and they're extremely talented people on the committee and talented drafters, and I've been very, very happy with the work they're doing, because they're actually doing work, and it's important work for us. And the size of this committee, I think that's up to you all, but at some point, this committee, meaning the Public Relations Committee, we need to get some counsel on when because it's a subset of this group. If it gets too big, it seems to me we have public meeting law issues that come in, and it also needs to be nimble enough, and especially in the summertime, given that we meet more often in the summertime, seems to me the back and forth between the committee and the group maybe enlarge the committee to the whole group for these meetings. And what we might be able to do is, for example, the thing that has been most worked on now is John's renovation. I don't know if it's a bad word on Nantucket renovation of the committee page on the town's website, rewriting it, updating it, and making it perhaps somewhat more understandable to people who might read it. And probably what we ought to do is provide that as part of our agenda for the next meeting, when we get to the point where, and I think we're almost there, if not there, for the whole group to look at and then say yes or no, or here's an idea that you might include, and then put it in the final that way. I know it makes the project process a little bit longer, but I think it's probably the right way to do things in terms of communications of that nature, big communication. So, John, I don't know if that sort of fulfills a way to broaden and stay within the public meeting nuance that.
I think you're right that we're at the end of the editing process. I think adding in the last additions that you've put in from Kathy, I think
Do you mind if I mention one of the biggest debates we had this week, and it had to do with how correctly one spells non-voting. The word non-voting.
I wasn't gonna mention that. I thought that
great differences of opinion. But I very sort of gingerly pointed out that this actual statute that governs us it spells it all as one word, and therefore we probably have to have the law changed in order to hyphenate the word non-voting or the words non-voting.
And I deferred to I wrote a non-voting with a hyphen because that is the better way to do it. And it makes
Obviously
it
not
makes it
voting.
clear. But I deferred to Peter, the lawyer, found the non-voting was not hyphenated by the town, and since the town made the mistake in 1991, we're going to continue with a non-hyphenated version of non-voting. But that is it's a lovely example of the detail we got into, Peter, right?
Yeah. So the question would be if we actually wanted to change the word non-voting, which has been used, from non-voting one word to a hyphenated word. Would we have to go before the HDC? Because it's sort of traditional and I don't know.
Is it a capital N or small N?
If we again table that discussion until if you want to do it next.
Yeah, I'm this just.
But I did want to say and welcome any new members to the committee to get involved in communication, because Livy and the town government has given us a lot of help, and we should utilize the people in the committee to do some hard work too. And one of the, in my mind, low hanging fruit on the tree is anybody who is in a neighborhood who have a civic organization, which there's 23 of them, so chances are you are part of a civic group if you chose to do that. But ask to at least speak to your civic group when you have your annual meeting, because those people, at least the Civic League has said they believe that at least half of those people are non-voters. And I would say in my neighborhood, there's even a greater number. And they don't know that this committee exists. And so all you need to do is, if you go to your annual meeting, ask your board to at least have a 2-minute hi. I represent the ACNDT, and what we do is important. And I believe that the select, after going to the summer forum, the select board even seems like they are struggling with understanding their constituents and how to get feedback. And so across the board, I think there needs to be more communication in the town. And we should be leading the charge, at least with our civic group. So anybody who's new to the committee and wants to be more involved, there's lots more we can do.
Point of order, I think there's a motion on the floor. There was John Delano made a motion to nominate Steve.
It's been tabled, I think.
I apologize. I didn't mean to nominate. I said I will nominate when he says yes.
We're in, what do we call it, the quiet period now? And we'll come back to the vice chair position at the next meeting, which I think is August 1st. So are you complete now?
Yeah, no, that's in terms of the communications committee. I prefer communications to CR because CR has negative implications and communication.
Great.
I keep violating your rules here, I'm sorry. And probably I don't have a negative. It's not negatively intended. Yep.
I'm just gonna say, this is a discussion that we ought to have among ourselves. We're wasting the time of our guest. I'm sure she has other things she wants to do this afternoon.
So I think we're finished with this. On the tax exemption increase issue, I think we've had a discussion so that we can pass that for the time being. But I do think that we need to educate ourselves a little bit more about exactly how it works and full understanding of this, just to be prepared. And I guess the question is, should we get the tax assessor in to explain more of this in one of our future meetings or let it rest for the time being. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Good idea.
I don't think it would hurt to have him in. I think we should have him in. We, you know, this issue and there are others that he can address
I
as well.
think there are, and plus I think he may be willing to do some slicing and dicing of some of the appraisal information that I think would help us understand the people we're trying to speak for better in terms of just, how they're housed. So I will do that and see if I can get him. He's very willing to come and just getting it time when he's available. So the last, let's see, last thing is potential FY 27 topics for discussion. I guess we're in FY 27 now. And we've tried to do this every year. Does somebody, if one were to list your, top 3 issues that you think are issues of concern for non-resident taxpayers, what would they be? And we could just go around the table and somebody can write them down that they really need further discussion, elaboration, and review by this committee.
I think that sort of, since most of the non-voting taxpayers are here in the summer, I would think a sort of quality of life issues, the traffic, the overcrowding, the ways to make life less of a hassle. And that story, Libby, that you mentioned in the Vineyard paper, I saw that as well and thought the exact same thing. I mean, we're not unique, but maybe there's a way to make. The issue for me would be make sort of life a little easier. People who are here, usually in the summer months.
Yeah. So I think that's all definitional in terms of quality of life. What are you mentioned 2 that I heard? One was traffic, and the other I wrote it down as density, which I think we heard from one of our visitors today. And of course, density seems to me to be two factors. One is zoning. We have zoning laws, and what do they do, and how dense do they permit things to be? And the other is the sort of what I call the holy cow on the island, which is conservation. We have a lot of density in terms of human beings and where they live, because a significant portion, I think well over 50%, is either under government control or even more, I believe, conservation land. And we all pay at least once transfer tax that goes to the land bank. And the question that has dawned on me, and it's dawned on other people on the island as well, is, when's enough? Or should conservation be more focused on sensitive, lands and whatever, rather than just taking huge swaths of land that could be developed? I don't know. I think they should both be on our list, but they've been the intractable problems that we've all faced, and certainly each year seems to be, more of a problem than the other. Although, if you were to go back to the Inky, and I don't remember how many years the Inky's been published, you'll find, in virtually every century and every decade, a article about there's too much density, going back 100 years or more, and it still happens. And so you need caps, which have not been of interest to people on the island. with parking and traffic.
So even before there were social media influencers and people on Instagram posting things and bringing people here. I mean, I remember there was an exhibit at the Whaling Museum 2 or 3 years ago, and there was a little quote from the Inky, and it was like 1890, and it was the exact same thing that people here say.
Yeah, and so the social influencing is new wine in old bottles, with the exception that anybody can be a social influencer, whether they serve instant credibility until you're proven not to be credible. Whereas, the Inky did a little triage, I'm sure, back then.
Peter, could I add, under quality of life, could I add one other name that I think might work? And
Could you
somebody,
speak up just a little bit, John?
I'm sorry.
I'm able to regulate the speaker volume here.
All right, is this better if I shout like this? Is this all right?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I think the quality of life issues are really important, and this is somebody who might affect it, that I was very impressed with the resume of the new health director. And obviously health issues, and all the regulations that come out of that office and the Board of Health. I think it would be a very interesting speaker. We probably should allow her a few months to get under her belt before you ask her to speak to all of us, but that would be your call, Peter. But bottom line is, I think that would be a very interesting aspect of this whole issue that I'd like to hear. And the other one that I think has already been suggested, I think it came up at the last meeting, is to certainly have the new members of the select board come and speak with us. Jill and Bob, and frankly, any member of the select board is always helpful. So I don't know how you want to schedule that, but I think we talked about that at the last meeting.
No, I agree. I have my list, and we're basically looks like your list. Peter,
I would just, we talk about topics, and these, we don't solve the problems, but we hopefully we advance the ball a little bit. These are similar, I think capital expenditures are keeping our eye on that ball is important. AI can give us a lot of help in that regard as we look down the road as to what the impact is going to be, how you're going to deal with it, how big it is. I think affordable housing, we need to continue to that affects our quality of life, that we have people here on island who can do the work that needs to be done, but can't afford the housing. And then, of course, I think clearly the environmental resiliency is a critical issue for this group. For all non-voting taxpayers, we've got a big investment here. I want to make sure it sticks around. The house is still here 30, 40 years.
I think that's a really important topic, and just for informational, educational purposes, I think people want that information. We should think about how we can get it to them.
Yeah.
Which information is this? I'm sorry.
Coastal resiliency.
Coastal resiliency. Okay. So I'm going to be our person on coastal resiliency because Gary died, and I've not been to my first meeting yet, but before the first meeting, I'm planning to meet with the director of that group and start to, get some better understanding. In a way, doesn't matter where you live on the island, coastal resiliency is your issue, and we have to treat it that way. I'll have more to follow up, and we had the coastal resiliency person just recently, and I imagine she ought to be at least an annual feature on our speaker list. And then the coastal resiliency feeds into the issue of capital expenditure in a major way. It feeds into the housing issue in a major way because houses are disappearing. It feeds into this issue of, why are you building in the middle of the island? Well, the middle of the island is not on the coast. That's part of it, at least, and it's this is all interconnected. Yeah.
Could I just, as long as we have Libby here, this is kind of out of order, but a philosophical question. Many communities have what we have here in terms of people, places like Aspen and Tahoe and many places where you're dependent on the tourism and you're dependent on people coming in and building, you know, exquisite homes. So I wasn't sure. I thought tourism was number one moneymaker for the town, but it might be construction. I'm not sure. You can clarify that for me, but when it comes to a select board, to make hard decisions on a long-term, where are we going as a community? And the question in my mind is making life a little bit easier for the people that live here or come here, a top priority? Or is it the dollar that gives people a livelihood, you know, the construction workers, all of that? And that trade-off becomes, I thought, just simply put in the trucks on the road for 6 weeks. And you hear me bellyache about this all the time, but I just think it's 6 weeks. If we can't give up 6 weeks of trucks on the road, a moratorium on building, let's say, for a better flow of traffic, for a better whatever, you wouldn't have all the trades, you know, on the roads for 6 weeks. Are we saying we value our community? Because people say, oh, Nantucket has changed so much. But when do we say, okay, we are going to put our foot down and say, maybe we don't need the revenue for the 6 weeks we get for construction, because we need a better life. I don't think the select board is of a character to do what some other communities have done. They certainly have done it in Florida, they've done it in Colorado, they've done it in parts of California, where they just say, stop, we don't need 6 weeks of income, philosophically.
So that's outside of my scope of responsibility or opinion to be said, but I think you should get the board members in here and ask them that. And this is a question that has come up in their strategic planning sessions. And it's a bit, you know, I don't know what the answer is. Either one of those answers is going to have stakeholder reaction in one way or another. And that's a policy level that.
There's no way to move that needle by any kind of letter from us.
Well, you are absolutely more than welcome to share that concern with them. That is something they should hear from their constituents. You're a big constituency of the town. And I would encourage you to put that before them.
We can be very cavalier and say, we don't care about the income for 6 weeks, we care about the character of our Nantucket. But there still doesn't seem to be, you know, we can be high and mighty about that, but.
That's not an issue. I mean, in fairness, we can address issues that there is arguably a consensus of, you know, from the non-building taxpayers. This is an issue where I guarantee you there's going to be widespread difference.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, they're going to, I mean, none of us like the traffic, but is it fair to say to the construction industry, you can't make a living during the 6 weeks of the year? I think there's a whole host of issues that go with it. It's a whole series of issues there. So I hear you, but I think that it's we really need to be focused on issues that we represent, quote unquote, represent the constituents.
Look, let me put it this way. We've gone to bat, not exactly on that issue, but we've gone to bat on that issue. And it came when I was put on the ad hoc committee, the noise committee, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. And, you know, all we do is think about noise. But my annoying, the noise that's annoying me is keeping bread on somebody else's table. and so I can't remember, it was a elderly gentleman who's still around, on the committee. We, yeah, and at some point he just said, this is a political issue. It's a political issue. And the select board is an elected group. So there are certain things that annoy, me or you or somebody else that is the bread and butter for the people that are making the noise. And, by the way, if you cut out 6 weeks, in the summertime, I will imagine, but I have no data, is that you're gonna have, even more difficulty attracting people to live on the island year round because they can't make money year round. And you're gonna have less services that we value. Because the noise on my property, the heck with everybody else. It's just, there are certain issues like that if it feels good to complain, but practically speaking, it's a political issue and you have to look at both sides. It's probably an intractable issue.
Well, individuals, in our individual capacity, everyone's free to obviously make those points, but I think the committee, as a representative of the ACMDT, I think it's just, as Peter says, it's just.
Yeah.
Peter, we're well beyond our time here.
Absolutely. That means you're hungry.
No, it means
Well, I think we're at the end. We have a meeting August 1st. Been a great meeting today, and our best meetings are when we have good speakers. And when you start off sort of the official season, the new fiscal year with the best, it's downhill from here, guys. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Here again, baby.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Where will we be for the next one?
Okay, so.
Should we be here?
Well, we'll try to be here. Do you all like it here?
Yes.
Or not?
Be here, I used to be here for years.
Prefer to be here than there.
Yes.
We'll see what we can do. So part of that would be being good, good people. So a couple of people will stay behind and help me rearrange the desks.
Sure.
But I have to get this turned off and make sure the place is all spotlessly clean. And then, we'll write thank you notes and they ask to come back.
Yeah, coming out.
How does this go?
So it is actually, these were all just 4 rows. So they're three, just look like that. And let me get this turned off so. They're very active.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
Yeah. No, I did. Yes, thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Good to see you in person.
Yeah.
This has been several years that I've seen you,
Yeah, we got big crowd. Good.
I'm glad to do that.
yeah, I know. Heard some.
But,
Right.
yeah, I'm here till,
Yeah, there's a lot of interest, yes, it really is.
my grandchildren.
Good to see you. Yes.
Mom and Dad.
You, I'm a little worried about the Morgan. I
I'm not.
Oh, yeah. Boy, did I work on the. Oh, did you? I'm not gonna.
Good. I'm gonna get this covered all.
Yeah.
Several different areas, but I had,